One of the more odd items in ReFantazio is the stale black bread, a dish you can cook on your gauntlet runner that when used in battle, instead of healing you like other dishes, damages the opponent for 300 almighty damage. And would you believe this item is actually a reference to an item with the same name, from the obscure Japanese exclusive title, Nora and the Time Studio, The Witch of the Misty Forest, produced by ATLUS. And would you believe I combed over everything I could find in ReFantazio in search of all the Easter eggs and references hidden within. And it turns out ATLUS saying this game was the celebration of 35 years of their brand was not just a marketing slogan. There are loads of callbacks to their past works hidden all across Uchronia. And in this video, I'm going to show you all of them. But before we begin, hi, I'm JohneAwesome. I love ATLUS games, and if you do too, make sure to subscribe. I'll be making tons of videos all about Metaphor, so if you want to see those, well, you know what to do. Destroyer! Also, the very end of this video will contain spoilers for ReFantazio. If you prefer not to see that, there'll be another warning later on. Just want to make that clear. Okay. Let's start with the easiest Easter eggs probably everybody knows by now. The Masked Dancer's masks, which change your elemental affinities, is very similar to the personas from the Persona series. Duh. They even have the same icon during the special experiments segment, and Joker's mask appears in the Academia menu. Additionally, when this archetype uses Masquerade Charge, you see the user surround themselves in Persona iconography. Equally as obvious is the Devil Summoner archetype, which shares its name with the Devil Summoner subseries, and it has you summon, well, devils from the Shin Megami Tensei franchise, like Jack Frost, Mothman, and Beelzebub. And there's the Tier 3 Seeker archetype, being named Soul Hacker, a homage to the 1997 Sega Saturn RPG, Devil Summoner Soul Hackers. Now I know what you're thinking, dude, everyone knows this crap, and I agree. But if I don't include it in the video, some dweeb in the comments can be like, he forgot that one, really? And I cannot let that guy win. So here's something I bet you didn't know. When a Persona Master wields a mask of the Devil Summoner lineage, they will shout Persona, which is a unique voice line only used in this instance.
Persona. Persona.
Persona!
Persona!
Persona! Persona!
Persona!
We also have the relics on stage during Saints Day in the Monterio Opera House. On display, we see the Piggytron from the Shadow Kaneshiro boss fight from P5, a Demonica helmet worn by the soldiers in Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey, and the largest of them all, the Holy Grail. Its memorandum description states that at the base of the cup, there's an inscription which says, "A terrible and forbidden chalice, which deceives the human heart to rule and control them," associating the vessel with the antagonist of Persona 5, rather than the Arthurian myth. A far more obscure reference is found in Metaphor's skill names, which while some may be ripped from recent ATLUS titles, the Tetra element spells Bot, Blizz, Kande, and Psyche were originally used in Megami Tensei on the Famicom over 36 years ago. God dang, this series is old. But before there was ReFantazio, Studio Zero paused development to train new staff in creating Catherine Full Body, a definitive edition of the 2011 puzzle game, containing approximately 30% more bloom. So it's only natural a few nods to Studio Zero's first game would be present in Metaphor. The first can be found in Sunshade Row. In the bottom left-hand corner, you can find graffiti of two sheep making a toast to each other. You encounter these sheepmen during your time in the Nightmare of Vincent Brooks, Catherine's protagonist, and they are essentially Catherine's unofficial mascots. Right across from this corner, you can find a sign for a shop that depicts Rapunzel, a game inside of a game from Catherine. Inside the Gauntlet Runner, you can find an immovable block from Catherine, shrunken down and placed on the tabletop. I like to think the party uses them to signify which paths during their travels they can't go for whatever reason. But is it a deliberate Easter egg, or an employee being a little clever, saving some time reusing one asset in another game? When making this video, it's sometimes hard to find the right answer, but we do have a concrete answer on one of these instances. One of the first followers we meet in Metaphor, Katharina, is a pink-haired Parapus who seems almost too obvious a nod to the pink-haired Quathwin, aka Rin, from Full Body. Those are revealed in an interview with Katsura Hashino. This is an absolute coincidence, as the names sound a bit different in the Japanese language, a theme that surprisingly will come into play a few times in this video. So you heard it here first. Katharina is not a Catherine reference. I know, that sounds ridiculous, but it's true. But for the next big bulk of Easter eggs, we turn to Virga Islands, which we learn in the main story is actually named Etria, a clever callback to the first settlement in the Etrian Odyssey franchise, called, well, Etria. In this town, you can purchase arms at Shiloka's weaponry, wet your whistle at the Golden Deer Hearth, and crash out at the Rooster Inn. Well, fun fact, all these locales are named after their Etria counterparts. Then we have the big one, the dungeon of this arc of the game being Lost Shinjuku, the final dungeon of Etrian Odyssey. Same layout, same music, same item, locations, and even same gimmick. The dungeons, humans, you circumvent them in a similar fashion to the FOEs in the Etrian franchise. Lastly, we have the Trial of the Dragon being a homage to the endgame challenge of each Etrian Odyssey game, a duel with 3 elemental dragons, which clearly inspired Metaphor's boss gauntlet within the Dragon Towers. In some of the Etrian Odyssey games, after defeating said dragon trio, you also take on a 4th, more difficult challenge, which isn't too different from our duel against the Elegy of the Soul. Some believe the Trial of the Dragon questline to be a callback to Chiesa Tanaka's Kung Fu DVD from Persona 4. And I did take some time to look into this. In the Japanese version of P4, her DVD is Become the Dragon Legend, whilst the Metaphor questline is named simply The Dragon's Trial. This may be an instance of the localization team on the western side of things making an accidental reference by just punching up the text a bit. So I DM'd ATLUS West on Twitter for additional clarification, and you will not believe what they said. Whilst you're in Lost Shinjuku, though, if you come over to this location, you will find knuckles called the Serene Fist. If you take these weapons over the church in Grand Trad to purify them, they are given a new name, Astral Saint Fist. Its item description reads, a star-crushing fist used by a moon goddess, hinting towards Shin Megami Tensei 5's depiction of Artemis. The Japanese translations of the weapon and her signature attack are also identical, solidifying this connection. Another interesting weapon can be found when you master 90% of Hazume's archetype tree. More will award you with Joker's knives, which have an item description stating, daggers used by a rebel who laughed in the face of authority. A super obvious callback to the Persona series with the character Joker from Persona 2 Eternal Punishment, a maniac murderer who will kill anyone you ask him to if you call him on the phone. It's pretty dark. He was a serial killer. Why would they glorify a serial killer? It's kind of... If you unlock all of Yufa's archetypes, though, you get the Mystic Crossier, which also mentions the Persona series, Sea of the Soul. It's a unique concept for Persona. We also have some gameplay callbacks. It's debatable if you can call these Easter eggs or just lack of imagination on the developer's part, but I'm gonna put them in the video anyway. The Hazume boss battle mechanic, where the true Hazume has a shadow whilst the clones do not, was first done in Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne, where you battle against Ongyo Ki. In that game, you have to fight the boss during a full moon, or no shadow will appear to distinguish the real Oni from the fake Onis, making the battle almost impossible to win. In the same game, many bosses and enemies will use the skill Beast Eye, granting them more half-press turns, much to the irritation of fans. Despite this common complaint, this ability made a comeback in Metaphor ReFantazio in the form of Soul Scream with the same effect. Hasatobe is the signature attack of the demon/persona Yoshitsune, which deals 8 weak physical attacks to random foes. And at rank 16, the Royal Warrior archetype learns the same ability. It must be corporate mandate that Yoshitsune make an appearance in some form in every ATLUS game because they just cannot help themselves. They genuinely love this guy. And once you master all Royal archetypes, you speak to more and acquire the synthesis move Armageddon's Final Sire, which deals 9,999 damage no matter what. Given the distinct amount of damage this move does, and it requiring so many resources to pull off, it may very well be a nod to the Persona 3 fusion spell, Armageddon, since they share the same name. And like any other media, Metaphor has some pop culture references. When a party member of the Brawler lineage uses the synthesis attack, Tiger Eruption, the user will strike a pose, and sound effect will play, reminiscent to the tokusatsu hero, Ultraman. The shape of the in-game world map is a reference to the woodcut panel included in the 15-18 editions of Utopia, by Thomas More. Yes, 500 years ago, we didn't have steel case editions. Instead, when you pre-ordered, you got a wood cover, I guess. And these last few are spoiler territory. If you beat the game, keep watching. If not, I don't want to ruin that for you. So, scram. Alright, let's get started. In the Elden Sanctum, the Elden people all wear traditional Ainu clothing. The Ainu are the indigenous tribes of Japan, and were forced from their lands to Hokkaido by the Yamato tribe, reflecting the behavior of the dominant tribes in Eldens in-game. And before the events of the Elden Sanctum take place, the hero will have a faint amount of black magla trailing behind them as they move. Once the hero and prince fuse, however, this is no longer the case, indicating the hero is no longer anxious, but the prince's condition. We have another literary reference, this time in the second to last final boss form. In this battle, Luis will attempt to devour puppets with his 3 maws. This is an allusion to Dante Alighieri's work, Divine Comedy, wherein Dante explores the circles of hell. And in the 9th circle, he finds Satan, frozen from the waist, chewing on Judas, Brutus, and Cassius in each of his 3 mouths. These were 3 people that Dante didn't particularly care for, hence their punishment in hell. And this last one's more of an observation or theory, but it's a good one, so I'm putting it in the video. Metaphor has a bunch of dragons. The ones we fight in the main story are associated with a specific color-coded relic. Dragon God Et, for example, is held in the silver lance Dracodios. Ice Dragon Sogne, little blue staff. But there is one relic we never get to see in action in the story. During the Nurse questline, we uncover 8 pieces of a red relic that were scattered across Uchronia. It's only once all 8 are assembled we learn that if the relics were combined, they would possess enough power to obliterate all creation. If the pattern follows, it's reasonable to believe that Metaphor's optional boss fight against the Red Scale Apocalypse Dragon is a what-if scenario. If the red relic had been assembled and the Red Scale Dragon unleashed, would anyone be strong enough to stop it? We initiated this battle in Academia, which we know was a wing in the Mage Academy. The Academy was shut down due to scholars learning the truth of dragons, and we hear from multiple sources that dragons are akin to threats beyond our control, insurmountable obstacles, or our deepest fears. In-game, the War of Ruin was caused by the discovery of magic, and the use of dragons led to the extermination of almost all life. In essence, the dragons could be a metaphor for nuclear weapons, and the red relic may have been a weapon that was never used or completed. But if it were, nothing but the red dragon would survive. That begs the question though, even if you destroyed the relic, if someone located that red book, then the newly rebuilt Mage Academy, could they reverse engineer the red relic? Just something to think about. But tell me, did you learn something new? Did you like my little theory? And would you eat a slice of stale black bread? Tell me down below, and stay tuned for more Metaphor videos coming real soon. Bye.